Welcome to a Simple Therapy podcast. Real conversations, brave stories, and simple soulful insights for therapists and anyone on a healing journey. I'm Sindee Gozansky, licensed therapist, supervisor, and a fellow human figuring it out too. Around here, we believe healing doesn't have to be complicated, and that leading with your heart still matters. We talk about what it really means to be human in and out of the therapy room. You'll hear from therapists, mental health professionals, and people courageously sharing their personal healing journeys. Because whether you're the therapist or the client, we're all human here. Let's keep it simple and keep showing up. Hello, and welcome to another episode of A Simple Therapy podcast. I'm Sindee Gozansky, your host, and I'm really pleased you're joining us today. Today, it is a real privilege for me to introduce you to my guest, Linda Ugelow. Linda Ugelow is a speaking confidence and vocal coach, podcast host, and author of the book, Delight in the Limelight. Formerly stricken with public speaking fear herself, she now helps entrepreneurs and professionals transform their experience of speaking from dread to delight, whether online or on stage, in the media, or in the meeting room. She's probably going to give me some tips as well, so I'm really excited for this. Linda holds a master's degree in expressive arts therapy, movement studies, and performed internationally for 4 decades with the women's world music group Libana as a singer, bassist, percussionist, and principal dancer. She hosts the podcast Delight in the Limelight to empower individuals on their journey to confident self-expression. And I know in today's episode, Linda is going to bring her personal vulnerability and professional insight to help us explore what it's going to take to really heal our roots of public speaking fear and step into authentic, wholehearted visibility. Welcome to the podcast, Linda.
Thank you. I love that last line of wholehearted visibility, because that's what we really want. It's not like, oh, I just want to be consistent, and getting out there or building my clientele. We want to be able to be ourselves. We want to be able to be our full selves, our authentic selves. I know that's a very used word, but it's a good word.
It's so good. And it's still something we all aspire to. Like we just can't stop saying that at every turn in our lives. And what I really enjoy about you is how you bring your authentic self into whatever you're presenting, whether it's speaking or sharing on Instagram or taking a walk and speaking so naturally. So many of us long for this, and we just get scared. I mean, I get scared. I was nervous just before I hit record. So this is a really human thing, right?
I think it's a very human thing of our times and in our society. And I can say that now because, as you introduced me, I was stricken with public speaking fear for most of my life. But now I realize that it's not random. There are reasons for us to feel unsafe, that, something is bad might happen, or someone will think something of us, or something will happen to us because, in fact, it did in the past. And that's what I have based all my work on since this very kind of discovery that I had. It wasn't an aha. It's not rocket science. And for therapists, it's like, well, of course, that makes so much sense. I think the difference is that we think of other things in our lives as being affected by our past. We don't necessarily think of public speaking as being impacted by past experiences.
Yes. And what a great blend of your training in, a master's degree in expressive arts therapy, your training as a therapist, and then your personal experience and your professional artistic, dance and musician experience. Like it really comes together. And so you make a great guest for my podcast and my audience. And if we didn't have that one experience of standing up in front of a class or an audience and freezing and, just being a wreck, there are still, what you're saying, other past experiences, maybe smaller than that have nonetheless impacted how our confidence shows up in speaking.
So many different ways. You can be neglected. You can be rejected. You can be ridiculed. You can be bullied. You could be abused. You could be responsible for everybody. All of these in your family. Because when let's say you take on that role, you feel like, there's no room for me. I have to be the adult. I can't complain. I can't express myself because there's no one around to listen to me. Everyone else is a wreck, or everyone else is ill, or whatever it is that is the circumstance. Anytime that we feel neglected, rejected, ignored, that gives a message to a young child. No, people aren't interested in me. I'm not worthy of being listened to. What I have to say isn't important. If we had, and that's leaving out the obvious things of like having a mean teacher in school or standing up in front of the class and having everybody laugh at you. Yeah. Even being in school where we are educated to believe that making no mistakes means that we are more valuable. So we become afraid of making mistakes. And there's so much in life, in real life, that's about experimentation and exploration. And it's some things, we say we learn from our mistakes, but in school, no, you're punished for your mistakes. So even though we there's this disconnect between what we feel we're safe to do and what we're allowed to do and what we feel capable of doing, because we're afraid of being wrong. We're afraid of not being perfect. We're afraid of losing our reputation. We're afraid of so many things, and it keeps us very inhibited. And that's not the place that we want to be when we want to be authentically and wholeheartedly expressing ourselves.
Yes, yes. As you say that, so much comes to mind, right? Like just the notion of somebody sitting in class and thinking, well, I'm not going to raise my hands because if I don't get it right, that's a mistake. And all of a sudden, your confidence is quashed and you don't express yourself. You said, there's no room for me. And that really struck me as a way of sometimes making us small or silencing our voice. That happens in relationships, right? We're not even, it could be anything. So I really hope as people are listening to this, right? Like there are, never mind. I'll have to redo that. Forget that one.
Yes, let your mind, when you are listening to this, let your mind like look back on your own life and think, where might this happen to me where I decided it was safer to hide?
Yes. And we're not just talking about public speaking. We're also talking about being authentic, about coming out and having more room, having more of us in the world.
That's right. Because that's actually what we are wanting for ourselves. That's what we're wanting for clients, to help people feel more fully themselves. And when I think of public speaking, I think of anytime we are opening our mouth to speak to anybody, talking about with family or around the table with friends or at a networking event or in meetings, at town hall, saying your piece. It's talking with our neighbors. I mean, anything where we are communicating with other people is a way that we are speaking in public.
Yes. Yes. So good. Also, because we have so many therapists listening to this, we're also talking about taking risks in being yourself, which is an important part of the therapist in the room, to take a risk and speak something that's on your heart or that's coming up. And so this really, really can resonate for you. How can you make that space to be you as a therapist? And Linda is a therapist, and she's also now a speaking confidence vocal coach.
Yes. Well, I don't have a license as a therapist, just to be clear.
Okay.
Yeah.
You did the master's.
I did the master's, but I felt like I didn't want to work clinically at that time.
Yeah.
But it's interesting how it's come around and it's become my work now.
For sure. Yes.
As a coach. Mm-hmm.
And it's still so much of your heart center, which I love. Maybe just give us an example of something that like really hit you when you think about your past and a way that you realized, oh, I was kind of shut down in terms of my voice.
Well, before we hit record, we were talking about how my background was in movement therapy, dance movement therapy, and I would lead these classes in something called authentic movement. I loved teaching. However, looking back, I realized that every single class, my heart was racing. And that somehow, even though I was excited, I was scared every single time. And I just managed it. I just figured, okay, this is what I feel every time I walk into the classroom. It could be, that this is what you feel every time you walk into the therapist's office, or, your client comes in, or you've got a new client and you think, oh my God. Mm-hmm. Or when you're networking and you're talking about the work that you do, or if you think about getting more visibility. So for me, it was in my teaching, but it was also in my performing. You mentioned that I was part of a singing group, a women's world music group for 40 years. And
wow,
our director really wanted our spoken voice to be heard every single concert. Now, because I had a lot of costume changes, I got to get out of it. There were half of us who had the gift of gab. They just loved introducing songs. And the others of us hated doing it, but we did it because it felt required. Mm-hmm. So as I said, I didn't have to do it every single time. Some seasons I had more dances and I could get out of it, but I had to introduce a song a lot. We did more than 500 performances. So out of that, maybe at least 250 of them, I had to introduce songs.
What a legacy. What a legacy. Amazing.
It is quite. I'm very proud of what we created together. I think we had, 9 albums, 3 songbooks of rounds and chants for people to come together and sing together. I felt like we did really contribute something meaningful to the world, and still do.
Can people still find this?
Yes. Libana, Libana. Yep. You can go to the website. You can get the recordings. You can go on YouTube and listen to. We have both rounds and chants and also world music.
Excellent.
You can see me dancing.
Love it.
Every time I had to introduce a song, totally mess up like the 3 songs before it, because I'd be thinking about, and I had it memorized. It wasn't that I was not prepared. I was very, very well prepared, but just the idea that I had to stand up and talk, I just thought, oh, I'm going to forget what I'm going to say. I'm going to stumble over my words. I'm going to, appear unpoised or something. I'm sure nobody ever knew. And that
no one would guess this, right?
No one would guess it.
Stereotype is a performer has poise and can do anything and can be on stage. So, what is introducing a song?
Exactly. And yet this also shows you how you may not realize it, but people can be silently suffering inside.
Yeah.
I remember I had this one client who was a public speaker. Her name was Tamsin Webster. I can share her name because she writes about me in her book and I write about her in mine. I hired her because she was an amazing speaker and I loved the way she was talking about how to formulate your framework and your ideas. And I thought, I need this woman to help me formulate my ideas for my book, actually. So I hired her for a year. We worked privately for a year. And about midway through the year, she said, Linda, I'm taking notes because you're talking about me. I said, what do you mean? She said, I panic every time I'm on stage. I said, but you're amazing on stage. I hired you because of how amazing you were on stage. She said, well, yeah. I was silently suffering inside. And I always do. So after we finished our work together, then she hired me as her coach. And in 5 sessions, she writes me, she said, did a new keynote, totally new material. I wasn't nervous at all. It was so much fun. And that's what I want for people. It's like speaking is our human design. Everybody is born to speak. Every child loves making sounds and learning how to put words together. It's a joy for them. Where does the joy go? It goes away with learning to behave, learning to appease the older people who want us to be a certain way so their lives can be easier, or they want us to fit in to how society expects us to be. It's difficult to know how to raise a child so that we don't squash their natural exuberance, their natural freedom. How to nurture that while still getting our own needs met. Yeah. You know, it's not like I blame educators or blame parents. You know, everyone's doing the best they can. Even, you know, people who wound others, you know, they're doing the best they can. But it is unfortunate that it's the ability to get from that free self-expression of a 2 or 3 or 5-year-old to adulthood and not have lost it is a heroic pathway. Yes.
Yeah. I think many of us wish it were fun.
Mm-hmm.
We wish it were fun to, you know, record the 10-second video on psychology today so that people could get a sense of who we are. Yeah. So many therapists I know say, oh, no, I'm not doing that. I'm too afraid or nervous. This is a great example. Mm-hmm. Or, you know, to put something on social media, or, you know, how long did I wait to do a podcast? You know, it's many, many years. So we see these patterns and we have no idea how to fix it. No idea how to do better ourselves.
It's one thing the first step is always to investigate. I call it reveal and heal. I have a 3-part framework.
Yes.
So a 3-part framework to overcoming the fear of speaking and getting to a place of speaking confidence and even delight. When we speak. So I call the first section reveal and heal. So the first thing is to what were those things? So I was on Periscope, which was the first live streaming app, when I first became an online coach. And I wasn't doing this. I thought I was helping people with stress. And I was very uncomfortable on camera. I took a bunch of camera courses, a whole bunch. And I've probably made 100 videos that were all unlisted on YouTube. I never posted them out. But then my video mentor said, you got to get on Periscope. It's this new technology, live streaming, and it's going to change the whole online space. The thing is, you got to get on every day. And I thought to myself, okay, I'm going to get on every day. I'm afraid, but I'm going to do it. And I'm going to manage my fear. I'm going to do meditation, deep breathing, power poses, affirmations. I did kicks and punches. I dance, you know, everything. I did stuff for like 45 minutes every single day just to get on this live streaming app and broadcast for 5-10 minutes. And then I'd have to, you know, decompress. So it was a big deal for me every single day. But I figured, you know what? In a few weeks, I'll be fine, right?
You won't have to do so much.
I won't have to do so much, and I'll feel confident and calm and relaxed. And 10 weeks go by doing this every day. I'm about to press broadcast, and I realize my heart is still racing. And I'm thinking, what is the matter with me? You know, here, and I'm a performer. What is the matter with me? And then I thought, okay, I've been managing my fear and I've been getting on every day, but I don't want to have any fear to have to manage. I just want to get rid of it. And it hadn't occurred to me. So this was like 2015. I graduated with my master's in 92. So many years in between. And I thought, okay, let me make a list of all the techniques I know. And the first thing on my list was something called focusing, which is basically like turning inward to your body and seeing where does this fear or discomfort, trauma live, and what does it want to say? So I closed my eyes and I asked, if the fear could talk, what would it say? And what came back was, you're going to be attacked.
Wow.
And I thought, where have I been attacked? And suddenly I remember my 2 older sisters attacking me every single time Mom put me on a pedestal. She said, Linda's such a good girl. She does everything I ask her to. What's wrong with you? Why can't you be more like Linda?
Oh.
And of course, they hated that. As soon as she left the room, they'd kick me in the shins. They'd say, shut up, call me stupid. And then I realized, well, of course, I'm not comfortable because I learned that it was dangerous to be the center of attention. So that's something else that you may not realize. Were people compared to you? Did you feel like you had to diminish yourself so other people would feel okay? They wouldn't be jealous of you. You wouldn't get attacked.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that really personal example. It really hits home for so many of us. When did we quiet ourselves or make ourselves small? When were we afraid of the response of somebody else? How does that come up? And you do have to get still, whether you're using focusing or some kind of meditation or artwork.
Or journaling is a great way of doing it. Just asking, when did I decide it was safer to hide? When did I try to speak up and felt like it wasn't received well?
Yeah.
When did I wish I could talk but was afraid to? Or, any of these prompts are going to help. What I realized then, though, is once you have this stuff out of the darkness and into the light, you got to do something with it. Of course, there are many paths to healing. I happen to have my own favorite things that I do. One of them is called Emotional Freedom Technique, EFT. Some people know it as tapping. I don't know what it is, but I have an affinity for this. I feel like I go into a kind of a intuitive flow with it.
Yes.
So when I work
I've had a mentor who's done that with me, and I've learned from her, and it's really can be really powerful.
Yeah, I've tried to describe it very, very diligently in my book. Some people have written to me saying, oh, I've done this. It was so helpful. I have other people who said, I've done this. It didn't work. I need your help. So it's a difficult thing to translate something that is kind of artistic and intuitive and put into something that's more kind of cognitive and template based.
Right.
So I do have on my podcast, I have coaching episodes where people can see what I'm doing with the EFT.
No way. That's awesome.
So, and so I've actually invited a lot of podcast hosts on because occasionally I'm on a podcast like this and someone will say, oh, I have this issue in this situation, and they'll come on my podcast. I'll do some coaching with them and do the EFT. So that's one of the things that I like. I also am dedicated to forgiveness practices, journaling with different prompts around looking at a past experience in different ways. I also really feel that creative visualization can be very powerful. Going back and talking to that younger you and giving them the kinds of things that they would have wished someone could give them at the time. Saying the kinds of things they wish that someone would have said. So many times I ask people, did you ever tell anybody about this? No. It didn't occur to me that I could tell my mom or my dad or my friend or.
Yeah. Right.
So the reasons why they still are active is because they didn't have a chance of being resolved at the time. So we need to think about, well, what would have helped me at the time? And then give that to yourself. You can do that through creative visualization or journaling or sitting and meditating or I'm sure you have other techniques that you do with your clients and people who are listening do with their clients. So it's not like there's any one particular way. I like to take a multimodality approach because I feel that, we're multidimensional beings and there's part of us that is intellectual and wants intellectual satisfaction. There's part of us that is emotional and it wants that, or we're bodies. So we need this kind of body nonverbal experience. or creative drawing. I had one client who was a songwriter, and I'd say, write a song about this.
Oh,
I had another client who was a poet. He wrote poetry. So you can find, I often, in my book also, in chapter 5, it's all about healing modalities. And I always encourage people to come up with their own rituals, especially if they've already done a big piece, like with a therapist, that I'll encourage them to say, okay, what could you do now? Like maybe it's throw stones in the water or sticks in the woods or burn pieces of paper in a candle.
Yeah. You start to see the expression, right? The creativity and the expression. It goes beyond just speech and voice. It's really expressing an expansiveness that you're helping people with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So it's not enough to know what happened. You need to do something with it. And basically what I'm sure you all think about this, like, what does healing even mean? But for me, I know it includes changing our relationship to those stories, to those experiences, seeing them in a bigger context that has more compassion, more understanding, more appreciation, more forgiveness, more admiration even. Like we need to give our younger selves this admiration for being able to survive and get through an experience with all the resources or lack of resources that we had.
Yeah. Yeah. And that it makes sense that little kid was embarrassed by whatever happened or didn't know the right thing to say.
Totally. And I think that in itself is a piece of the healing. Like, yeah, of course I didn't feel comfortable being out, I had a very interesting client experience this week where they felt really comfortable with their parents, but they felt that they had to be a certain way for the extended family, that the aunties would come back to mom about the daughter and say, she's too much this, she's too wild, she's trouble. And so the girl felt like she had to take care of her mom being attacked by the aunts, or so that the mom was safe.
Yeah. Wow. Right. So kind of indirect, but it still has this impact.
Right. And so that's why the investigation is so important. It may not be an obvious thing at all, but for her, when we figured this out, it was like, oh my God, I've been trying to figure this out for years. Couldn't figure out why. I thought my home life was fine, but no, the larger network was not okay.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so fascinating.
Yeah. And it's like her mom was okay with her, but the aunts weren't okay with her. So fascinating.
Did you know 1 in 5 people will experience a mental health issue this year? That's why I created Mental Health Threads, to spread awareness and break the stigma around mental health. At mentalhealththreads.etsy.com, you'll find a collection of inspiring and fun products, from t-shirts and hoodies to mugs, hats, candles, and more, all featuring positive messages that encourage self-care and mental well-being. Best sellers like Go to Therapy, Love Wins, and Still Here are fan favorites, along with our signature semicolon designs and Pride collection. Therapists especially love our exclusive items like Licensed Listener and Professional Secret Keeper. Our mission is to spark important conversations and remind you that you are not alone. If you're ready to make a statement and support mental health, head on over to mentalhealththreads.etsy.com today. Let's make mental health a priority together. Yeah. So I'm thinking a little bit about what you touched on with those techniques. Like, would you use some type of tapping if somebody says, every time I have to do a presentation, like I start feeling, sweaty, or my voice starts to shake, or, like what's something kind of tangible, like my throat tightens up, that somebody could start with? I know it's individual, but
Yeah, when truthfully, when people say that this is going on, I say, yeah, there are management techniques and you can manage it, but if you want to get rid of it, you got to get to the root causes.
Yes.
So I very rarely do EFT on the symptoms.
Okay.
I just feel like it's a management technique if you do it that way.
Yeah.
It may help, but I find that there are other ways that we can prepare ourselves for speaking that is, I would call it a management technique if you're afraid to speak, but if you've already done the deeper work, and I would say it's a preparation technique, a preparation to bring out the best. It's like, as a performer, we don't just drive up to a venue, unpack, tune our instruments, change our clothes and get on stage. No, we spend 45 minutes to warm up. We warm up physically. We warm up our bodies. When we warm up our voices, we warm up beyond even what we're going to do. So we'll go even higher, let's say in pitch, than any song goes. We'll utilize our voices in different ways, even though we may not need those ways for that particular performance. Why? Because we want to feel like our voices are reliable, that we are in touch with them, we are connected with them. And for a speaker, it's the same thing. Our voices are our instrument. So if you are afraid, if you have a shaky voice, don't just think about what you're going to plan to say. You got to physically, vocally warm up your voice. You got to make a bunch of sounds. If you've ever done some singing and you have some voice exercises that you're familiar with, you can just use those. But if you don't, just make a bunch of sounds like wow, blah, 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 wow, wee, way, abacadabra, abracadabra, or whatever, just make up all kinds of sounds and feel how your voice kind of fills the room and feel your resonance and enjoy this feeling of sound vibrating in your body. I think this is one of the fun parts of what people get to do with me, is that they get to rediscover the joy of making sounds in their voice, so that when they open their mouth, they go, oh, good. I get to feel this experience of resonance and vibration in my body. And it's pleasurable and it's fun. So definitely warm up your voice, loosen up your body, just like I did going on Periscope, all the things I did on Periscope.
Right.
I recommend do something vigorous first. If you're nervous, shake out your body, like give those jitters someplace to go.
Yes.
Dance, jump, shake, kick some punches, whatever. Feel the strength in your body. If you feel like nervous, speak louder, because when you speak louder, when you give more energy, you override that quiveriness, that feeling of weakness. So put more energy into it, like galvanize yourself, be more fierce. That is going to help you get over. So start with the big stuff, the big movement.
Love it.
And then center yourself. Then maybe it's a chakra meditation if you're into that. I love chakra meditations. I don't know if I do it correctly, quote unquote, but I do it in a way that feels meaningful.
We've thrown out the correct stuff.
Yeah. It's meaningful. That's what's important. So you want to center yourself. You want to maybe connect with your breath. You want to give yourself some affirmations. You don't want to be thinking, oh my God, I'm going to be so nervous. You don't want to go yada, yada, yada in your head. You want to say things inside your head that are supportive and encouraging. So may I be helpful. May I trust that the words that come out of my mouth are the ones that are supposed to be there. May I give myself permission to not be perfect. So these are the kinds of things that you want to focus your mind on.
What a gift.
And then maybe some gratitude of like, what makes life wonderful? Oh, the sun coming in the window, the snow and the nature outside, my family, my friends, or I get to do this important work. So indoor plumbing, it's like
Yeah.
a down pillow, whatever it is that,
Mhm.
you can just look around and see abundance around you. So connect with that sense of gratitude, because these are the states of being that you want to bring yourself. And then whether or not you are bringing your wisdom or your vulnerability,
Yeah.
you're bringing your sorrow or you're bringing your joy, you are connected to yourself in an embodied way.
So beautiful. It goes beyond. It brings our environment, our whole context into this alignment with ourselves and that embodiment as you describe it. So powerful. I think everyone is going to want to know more about you or work with you, Linda. We're not done yet, but so here we are. We're working on our root causes for our speaking fear. Then we're preparing, we're warming up, we're being like a performer or an athlete. We're warming up, we're doing all of those crazy sounds with our voice, rah, 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 whatever. Like, I'm going to have to do that because
Yes.
I know I'm not doing that. Okay. Then the camera, the video. What helps with that fear? Or again, I'm sure there's a root cause also between the comparison that our society brings and our own root causes and, mirror fear and all of that. But we also have a fear of being on video.
Yeah. So yes, the root causes, it's the same stuff, but I'm so glad you brought this up because we get messages. We have experiences, but we also get messages like, don't brag. Don't stand out. Keep your head down. Don't be so loud. Quiet down. Use your indoor voice. Children should be seen and not heard. Any of these things, you think, oh, I'm an adult now, but no, we still embody those. We've absorbed those messages. So to allow yourself to be on video, it's like, oh, again, who am I? Who am I to be here? Who wants to look at me? Who wants to listen to me? Who's going to be interested? These are all from those times that we already talked about.
Okay.
However, there is something new about camera that is not part of our human design, but it is similar to being in front of people. And when you are in front of, whether you're standing in front of people or you're in front of the camera, there's a relationship there. And what a lot of people tend to do is, oh my God, I hate this. Get me. I feel so bad. The judge, people are going to judge me. We tend to, this is part 2 of my inner freedom framework. We tend to think that we're afraid of what other people are going to think of us, but there can be no harsher judge than ourselves. And so I have a program called Watch Yourself on Video Without Cringing.
Oh boy.
Why?
Sign me up.
Because there's nothing like watching ourselves on camera to bring up all the things that we dislike in what we see. And when we can see that, we can heal it. So it's not like we want to quiet that voice. We actually want to encourage that voice to come out, because when we say, oh, I hate the shape of my nose, or look at how I use my arms are flopping, or the sound of my voice, or my whatever it is. Why do I always lift my chin up? That was one of mine. We can look at these things and say, look, the Dalai Lama has this wonderful quote. And I use it in this course. It's, if there's something you can do about it, why be unhappy? If it can't be remedied, what's the use of being unhappy? And I love that in so many ways, but I love it for this process, because there are things that we can change in being on video, and there are things that we can't. So the things that we can't, let's say our features, we have to find a way of honoring them, of feeling like, who are we to say this is bad? And why are we saying this is bad? We have to find a way around that we can genuinely accept and embrace and love the parts of ourselves that can't be changed and separated out from the media messages or the societal messages that there are certain kinds of beauty and ugliness, and we need to find a middle ground that we can embrace and we can stand upon for ourselves, because we want to be our staunchest advocates, not our biggest critics.
Yes.
And the things that can be changed, so let's change it, but you don't have to make a big deal about it. Let's just break it down into small pieces and be kind. It's like the inner critic actually wants the same things that we want. It just has a really lousy way of expressing itself.
Yeah.
So we need to learn to elevate the voice of the inner critic to one that is much more elegant.
Yeah. And the one we give to others, especially as helpers and healers, right? We're so about loving the other person and yet being harsh with ourselves, not loving or accepting ourselves.
That's right.
You know?
Which is great in some ways, because then you can say, well, if I was talking to a client, what would I say?
Yeah. Yeah. And the great thing about the video and being able to, I love your course, like watch yourself on video without cringing, is we also all have that desire. You know, there was something I heard once, like everybody who looks at wedding pictures or family pictures, you're looking to see yourself. We all want to see ourselves. And I really think the same goes. Like we want to see ourselves being authentic and showing up and like being okay with who we see in the video.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I remember, I don't know if you have kids, but I remember when my daughter was little and we did a lot of recording of her and her friends, and we'd put it on and they loved watching themselves. They were hysterical and they wanted to see more and more and more. And that's what we want for ourselves. I want people to be able to, like, if they make a video for Psychology Today, say, oh, I love that video. I love how I look. You know, I love how I talk. I love how I express myself. Like, we deserve that too. We deserve that too.
We do.
There is another module of video making that I have called Make Friends with the Lens. And, you know, you ask, how do you get comfortable? Well, if you want to feel relaxed on camera, you practice that. You practice relaxing on camera. You turn the camera on and you just guide yourself through a relaxation and you film it.
Wow.
Look it back. I mean, it's so basic. It's so easy, but people don't think of doing that. You want to do that enough that every time the camera comes on, you can get into that embodied state. You want to, every time you turn the camera on, you want to make friends with the lens. So I'm going to put my finger up to where the lens is.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, that's where it is. Hello, lens. You're amazing. This technology, how do you do that? You're so awesome. I'm so appreciative.
Yeah.
You know, so like create a new relationship to it so that, and then we need to create a relationship to the audience, like allowing ourselves to be seen. Okay, I'm going to speak and I'm allowing other people to listen in on this conversation. I'm allowing people to listen in as I just let my thoughts come out. Yeah. And you see the people who you want to see. I mean, we're using your imagination anyway. You may as well use it to imagine the people you want to feel there and not the people who don't. But, you know, in truth, people who don't want to be there aren't going to be there.
Yeah. And so much permission, so much. And fun. That's what you bring into this that most of us don't even think is possible, to have that joy and fun in public speaking or being on camera and being authentic, expanding ourselves and being vulnerable or being professional. You know, we talked also before recording, why does this matter for therapists or for people who are, you know, in a helping role or, you know, any of those caregiving roles? Well, there are lots of reasons, from networking to talking at meetings to, leading team meetings, interviewing.
Building something, a podcast like you're doing, or getting on social media to have a wider impact on people. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And then if you ever write a book, you got to talk about your book. So, it may be that you develop a particular angle to therapy that you want to write about, you want to contribute to. And it's not, you just don't, these days, you can't just like publish a book and put it out there. No one will read it. If you want people to read your book, people need to know about it. So you have to get out there and talk about it. So
yeah, lots of reasons.
Lots and lots and lots of reasons. Yeah. And, as I said at the very, very beginning, when I used to speak, I used to teach my workshops, and I would, even just in that environment, that we want to be able to, like in our normal work environment, there can be anxiety that comes up, and we want to be able to feel grounded and centered and open and eager.
Yes. Oh, I love that. Eager. As an educator, as an instructor, so many of us are also that on the side. And just like you described, right, there's a piece of that. As soon as I say that, all of those old past things come up, right? So there's always something more to work on, which is beautiful about being human, that we still can grow. Yeah, so exciting to hear about public speaking in a whole new way, Linda.
Well, it's a joy to share about it, because I feel that I ignored it for most of my life. And I'm really passionate now, recognizing what it can be for us, how fulfilling it can be. And I'm not talking about getting on stage or even on a podcast, but even like getting together with friends and sharing your ideas, sharing stories, whether it's one friend or 4 or 6 friends. I mean, these are the parts of life that give so much satisfaction to us. Being able to express ourselves, being able to take up space when it's given to us. So much of my life, I felt like I rushed through things because I thought, oh, no one wants to. I don't want to be a burden. I don't want to take up people's time. And now I realize what a gift it is, not just to me, but for the person listening, that I do get into it, that I do take some time, that I do enjoy the story, because that means they can too.
Yeah. And as you have shared so much, I really feel like even if somebody isn't about taking their speaking to the next level for, say, professional purposes, when I'm with you, when I'm having this conversation with you, I want to be more natural like you are in relationship, right? You are just like authentic and are able to like feel so aligned in who you are as you speak, from the words you say to your facial expression to, the physicality. I think so many of us long for that. And thank you for giving us a glimpse of what's possible, Linda. Thank you so much. Like, so amazing.
You're welcome. I'd love to leave with a couple of thoughts. One is that during this podcast, there were many, many times that I couldn't find the right word that I wanted, that I didn't find quite the right expression. And you probably didn't recognize that. I could see by your facial expression, like, what is she talking about? And this is what I want you to know, that you don't need to always find the perfect words. You don't always need to find the most brilliant way of describing something in order to communicate, in order to express your thoughts. Every thought you have can be expressed in many different ways. Don't get attached to finding the one. Allow yourself to be creative and come up, like even if you can't find the exact way you wanted, let that be like, oh, I'm being creative now and finding another way of saying it.
Yeah.
This is another way of giving permission. And I feel like, especially those of us who did well in school, who are high achievers, that we can get stuck in perfectionism. And I want to give you a big permission slip to stumble, to forget what you want to say, to find new ways of saying things because you can't remember the way, or, you can't quite catch the word or the phrase. Let it be much more playful. So that's one idea. The other thing is that you can start to build you can intentionally continue to grow your speaking skills by picking just one tiny little thing to focus on, maybe for a week or for a day. Like it could be, I'm going to feel my feet on the floor when I speak. Or when I listen, I'm going to feel in my body. I'm just going to scan my body and relax it as much as I can. Or I'm going to see, what is it that I do to avoid looking people in the eye? Or how comfortable or uncomfortable am I looking people in the eye? Or if you're on camera, like, I'm going to challenge myself to find where the camera is exactly. And I'm going to challenge myself to look at the camera instead of the screen at myself. So anything tiny like that. Or it could be something about your voice. It could be something about your posture. It could be something about your energy. But just pick one tiny, tiny little thing and play with it. And if you keep playing around and being curious, you're going to grow and start enjoying getting to speak more, because it's through your speaking that you get to practice these things.
Gold. That's gold. What a gift, sharing all of those things with us, Linda. We could go on. I could respond to that. I thought for sure it was going to be about our enunciation or how we held our mouths. And no, these are such simple things like feeling your feet on the floor. We can all do that. Yeah. Thank you for making this accessible and possible, and giving us hope that we can become the wholehearted, authentic people we want to be. Linda, before we go, please share with everyone about your website and your book and how people can find you. And we'll link to it in the show notes as well.
Yes. Well, my book is Delight in the Limelight. You can listen to it on Audible, or you can get it on Kindle, of course. You can download a free chapter from my website, which is lindaugelow.com, Ugelow, and I'm on social media with that name. It's the one and only. I used to bemoan that when I was younger. Now it's easy to get the URL for it.
That's awesome. It's a great name. So lindaugelow.com. Yes. And we'll link everything and make sure you get the free chapter. Again, so much gratitude to you. Thank you so much, Linda, for this great conversation.
Thanks, Sindee, for having me on.
Yes, a pleasure. Thank you, everyone, for listening. And until next time, remember to keep it simple and keep showing up. Thanks for listening to A Simple Therapy podcast. If today's episode resonated with you, please subscribe, leave a review, or share it with someone who needs it. Your support means so much. You can learn more or get in touch at asimpletherapypodcast.com. And remember, let's keep it simple and keep showing up.